Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. This is everything you need to know about the Wekono's Wake Season 8 update. First and foremost, Serpent Beach has received a pretty massive visual rework, so check this out. This is what Serpent Beach looks like now, and it is honestly pretty freaking incredible. They did a pretty good job of actually changing up the visuals on this map to make it look more like the other Temple Isles maps that have gotten reworks, like Jaguar Falls and Frog Isle, but obviously with a very big touch of Serpent Flare. Hey, look, it's Maldamba. So, this is a pretty good map rework overall. They have done a lot of work to make sure that it plays just like the original, because Serpent Beach is one of the most beloved maps in the entire game, and they wanted to avoid another Stone Keep situation where a lot of players felt like Stone Keep played worse. So we've done a lot of play testing on this map, and yeah, I think we've come to a place where everyone can be pretty happy with the rework overall. And yeah, the collisions feel great, the map layout hasn't changed. It's overall a pretty nice map refresh. There are also these new subclasses, which will be available in a new experimental queue that will be available alongside Siege, Onslaught, and all the rest of the regular queues. And this is a new system that they have added, which basically gives each class new subclasses. So as a flank champion here, I'm able to choose between Duelist, Rallyman, and Skirmisher, which all give different effects. And there are different subclasses for every single class. So Tank has different passives, Support has different passives, and Damage champions have different passives. You can also turn on subclasses here in custom games, as well as 3 other limited time modes. So we have subclasses, the Beyond Store, Cards to the Max, and we also have Truly Talented, which is really freaking cool, and hopefully they expand this to include even more limited time modes in the future. New Paladins players will also be able to have access to the Newcomer Queue, which is a queue specifically designed for low-level accounts to play in and low-level accounts only. It's basically like a clone of Siege, except it is for new players, and so they hopefully won't be able to go up against super high-level players and will be able to learn the game in peace without getting farmed, hopefully, because you guys know how bad matchmaking can be in this game sometimes. So as you can see, I'm a high-level player. I physically do not have access to this queue, but if you're a new player, you will be able to queue with other new players and have a much more balanced experience, so it should be pretty nice. Ranked has also, of course, been reset, and I'm recording this before it's even open. Let's go, man! So there are some new rewards for Ranked, of course. There is a new skin, Subjugator's In. There is a new limited avatar for playing 100 matches. There is a currency limited skin token if you achieve Masters this season. So finally we have an additional reward for reaching that super high rank. We have another limited avatar for the first split here and a golden cash for the first split. So pretty cool rewards here for Season 8, and yeah, the split has also, of course, been reset, and there are also some new requirements and changes to the rank system as well. So first of all, if you're a new player, you need to have 24 champions to have access to the ranked now, as opposed to 18, and also they have changed how the tier point system works, so you can generally lose more TP, gain more TP, and you'll just be moving throughout the ranks a little bit faster this update. And finally, when it comes to ranked, they have changed how the draft system works, so the lower rank you are, the fewer bans you have, which should hopefully accelerate the drafting phase and allow more characters to be played at those lower ranks. So if you're in gold or below, you only have 2 bans per side. If you're in plat, 3 bans per side, and then if you're in Diamond Plus, you will have access to the traditional 4 bans that everyone is used to by this point. And yeah, real quick, here's that Xin skin, which is the Season 8 ranked reward. This is a recolor of the Conqueror skin, and I'm not going to say any more about it, because if I do, I'm just going to slander it. There is also a new event pass this update, and this is a weird one for a season launch because it only has 1 skin in it, and it's a recolor, and it's the one you can see on the screen right now. It is Ash with the Loki Blaster recolor, which honestly does look pretty good, but you may be scratching your head, well, what the heck is up with this event pass then? Where's the rest of my stuff? Well, this event pass is unique in the fact that it gives you a metric crap ton of chests. So we have multiple diamond troves, multiple flare and style chests. We even have a few gold caches scattered in here, as well as the usual offering of crystals and other boosters and stuff like that. So this is a really good value for players who do not already have everything out of the diamond troves and flare and style chests, which I would assume is most people. So if you are someone who just wants a bunch of random skins from diamond troves at a massive discount, then this event pass should be pretty good for you, and you get this Ash recolor at the end, as well as a limited title called Maldamba's Understudy. So yeah, it's an interesting take on an event pass, and it's there for you if you want it. Alright, so now let's move on to the balance, and up first we have a general balance change, which is to anti-healing. Anti-healing will be starting now at a value of 25% at the beginning of the match instead of 30%, so just a very slight nerf to anti-healing, and it honestly won't be super noticeable, but it should extend the early game just by a little bit. After that, we have some item store changes, and these are going to be much less radical than what we saw on the PTS if you watch those update notes, so pay attention because a lot of stuff that you thought might be changing may not actually be getting changed in the way you think. So first of all, Blast Shields is slightly less expensive. That hasn't changed since the PTS, so this is now 275 credits instead of 300 credits like it used to be. And also, we have some massive buffs to Bulldozer and Wrecker. Those changes also went through, so Bulldozer will now be scaling up to 150% at Tier 3, and Wrecker has been made more expensive. It now costs 300 credits, and it's been buffed to 150% as well. Previously, it was actually going to be 180% on the PTS, but then they toned it back to match Bulldozer's scaling. To compensate for Wrecker being buffed, Guardian has also been buffed to 60% effectiveness at Tier 3. And you'll notice over here next to Guardian we have more expensive Sentinel and we have Resilience, so what's up with that? Well, first of all, Resilience is back. This was an old item that reduced the duration and effectiveness of all crowd control effects. So instead of splitting crowd control reduction into two items, Unbound and Sentinel, Resilience just covered it all. And that item is back, which I'm sure a lot of players will be super happy to see. And Sentinel has been reworked, of course, to instead give you a up to 600 health shield for 5 seconds on earning elimination, stacks 3 times, and they've made it slightly more expensive at 225 credit scaling, which, in my personal opinion, it should have stayed at 200 credit scaling with this effect, but you'll also notice this effect is drastically different from what they gave it on the PTS. They reworked it after a lot of backlash because, hey, it turns out healing your enemies is not that fun. So yeah, Sentinel is much more tame. It's basically like a sort of shield version of Kill to Heal, which is pretty nice. It's also important to point out that Rejuvenate ended up not getting reworked at all this update. They were originally going to rework this to provide overshielding if you were basically at full health and you received healing from other players, which was a really wacky effect. And yeah, they decided, yeah, let's not go through with that, and let's just revert it completely back to regular Rejuvenate, which increases your healing output, so nothing's changed there. And then the final item change is to Deft Hands. They have simply lowered the price from 225 credit scaling to 200 credit scaling, and this is a pretty nice change. Previously, they were going to keep the price the same, but increase the reload speed cap to 75% at Tier 3, which was a really wacky effect. It really broke a lot of animations too. It was kind of strange. So yeah, Deft Hands is just getting cheaper now, and I think that's probably the best change they could ask for. Many champions this update are also getting subtle changes to their reload animation cancels. And a reload animation cancels when you interrupt the reload partway through, but the reload still goes through. You still get your ammo back, and you also get the value out of whatever ability you use. So a good example of that is here on Androxus. I can reload, and then about 75% of the way through, I can punch, and I still get my ammo back, but I was able to punch, and I basically interrupted the animation of the reload. So that is generally a lot more fluid and happens a lot earlier for a lot of characters now. And if you want to read the full list of characters that it affects, I'll have that linked in the description down below in the patch notes. To compensate for the Wrecker buff, most shield tanks are also getting their shields buffed by just a little bit of HP, whether it's 750 or 1000 or even less than that, like 500. There are a bunch of shield buffs to basically every shield character in the game, except Torvald, which we'll get to later. So, again, the list of that will be in the patch notes. I'm not going to ramble through every single character, because for a lot of shield tanks, that's their only balance change to this update. So, yeah, we'll just leave it there and move swiftly on. There is a new status effect coming this update, similar to Ignite from last update, and it is called Shock. Shock is applied by a few characters, most notably Grohk, and it will basically act currently as a damage buff for one champion in particular, and they hope to expand Shock's functionality later to give it more value across the board and hopefully affect characters like Grohk, because surprisingly, Grohk's not the character who gets affected by Shock. He can only apply it with his Shock pulse. And so yeah, there are a few champions that apply Shock. Grohk, Vivian with her ultimate, as well as Seven with Tribunal upgrades, but most notably Kinessa can now apply Shock with her Oppressor Mines and with her Sniper Rifle. And this is important because it affects her Carbine Rifle with the new talent High Voltage. So they have reworked the mine talent yet again. Honestly, this one seems like they finally hit the mark and made a good mine/carbine talent. This will cause Carbine Rifle to deal 20% bonus damage to shocked targets. So if she, of course, shoots an enemy with the sniper, and then shoots them with her carbine, you see she gets that bonus damage. Or puts a mine out, shoots the affected target, gets the bonus damage on the carbine. And then if Grohk were to happen to shock pulse this Fernando, she would also get the bonus damage against him. So that is how the new shock status effect works on Kinessa here. And it's a pretty nice talent. And yeah, no real complaints here, and I hope to see what they do with shock in the future, because I like this new form of status effects giving synergies between specific champions, and so hopefully they expand it. Now, Barik is getting a metric crap ton of buffs this update to basically almost every single card that he has, as well as a few base kit changes. So first of all, his blunderbuss. The base blunderbuss shotgun is ever so slightly more accurate. You're really not going to notice it too much, but it will help just make his damage a tiny bit more consistent. Also, of course, his shields have been buffed, like I said. Every single shield in the game pretty much is getting buffed to some extent, and that also includes his dome shield, which has the added effect of lasting 2 seconds longer, from a 6-second duration to an 8-second duration, and it has 4,000 extra hit points now. So yeah, a very nice buff to his ultimate, which otherwise in some cases can be underwhelming, especially considering how long it takes to build up his ult compared to most other tanks. Now let's get into the card changes. So first of all, probably the craziest card buff of the entire patch, Accelerator Field. They just buffed it to 60% movement speed for 5 seconds. So you walk through this, whee! Speed Barik! And bear in mind, every single ally on the team can walk through the shield and then get the movement speed buff. So they really want you to play Accelerator Field this update, which is cool. I mean, it's absolutely fun. It's a crazy card. But let's talk about some of the other card changes. The most important card change is to Failsafe. This is a very popular card for Barik, and they've basically given Failsafe the same treatment that they gave to Ebb and Flow a few months ago, which was Makoa's Shell Spin Reset card. So now it just resets the cooldown of Rocket Boots after falling to or below 40% health at level 1. It does not change the scaling or anything like that. Instead, the level of the card determines the internal cooldown. So by default, it has a 30-second cooldown, but you can get it down to an 18-second internal cooldown if you really want to. What makes this so important is now, instead of needing to invest 3 points into it like you would normally do, you now only need to invest 1 point into it to still get a really powerful effect, meaning you can put more loadout points into something like Bowling Ball, Accelerator Field, Fuel Efficiency, etc. So this is a really important card change. They have also generally buffed the scaling of most of his cards. So these healing cards on turrets, Field Deploy and Healing Station, have both been buffed to 50 scaling. Forged Alloy has been slightly buffed. Combat Repair has been slightly buffed to 100 scaling. Double Time has been buffed from 50 to 65. And they have also buffed Palisade, the cooldown card of the shield, up to 0.6 seconds scaling. I'm pretty sure they also, they buffed Bunker to 250 health scaling. So yeah, generally just a ton of card changes here to make Barik feel really good, make it feel like he has much more impactful decision-making when it comes to his loadouts, and that decision-making is, of course, helped by the fact that, again, you only need to put 1 point into Failsafe now, which, in my opinion, is pretty much a mandatory card on the guy, because it feels so good to play with it, I just can't play without it anymore. So, really good changes for Barik. He's going to feel a lot stronger this update, and yeah, if you haven't tried him, go play some Barik, man. Betty LaBamba is getting one very subtle, but hopefully pretty impactful change to her cluster grenade. So this will now explode on impact with enemies or shields, and the initial impact damage has also gone up from 250 to 350. So, hopefully you can weave it in as sort of a burst combo now, and get a little bit more effective value out of your cluster bomb. They have also decreased the secondary detonation timer from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, so the cluster grenade should generally be more impactful now, which is exciting if you're a Betty main, maybe a little scary for the rest of us, but we'll just have to see about that. Hopefully it should make her a little bit more effective. Buck is getting some pretty big buffs this update to his non-Bounce House playstyles, although Bounce House is still getting a little bit of indirect love from all these changes. So, first of all, let's take a look at the two talents, Ensnare and Bulk Up. These both have been buffed. Ensnare now does 25% damage instead of 20% damage, which is a nice little damage buff, and Bulk Up also gives more healing now. It's up to 600 instant healing from 400 instant healing, so two pretty big buffs already. And they have also buffed the card Giga Siphon, which is a card for Buck that gives him now 50% or a 40% movement speed for 3 seconds after using recovery. Previously, it gave him, I think, 60% movement speed, but it was only for the duration of recovery, so it was absolutely awful. It barely lasted for any time at all. So this should give him much more flexibility now with the Giga Siphon, and yeah, basically now he has a pretty powerful movement speed card for a bulk up build. Because yeah, press my recovery and then just walk around and get that movement speed buff, and then boom, I get that movement speed buff again, just like that, keep on going. They have also reduced the cooldown of net shot and recovery from 10 seconds down to 8 seconds. So you can see if I use the net shot, 8-second cooldown. Hey, that's pretty cool. And they also decrease the channel time of recovery from 1.5 seconds to 1.2 seconds. So you get that healing just a little bit faster, and you get back to shooting, get back into combat a little bit faster as well. And they have also nerfed the cooldown cards to compensate. So Reconstruction and Concussion now scale up to 3 seconds, which means that if you run them at level 5, you still have the 5-second cooldown on the ability as per usual, as was the case last patch. But if you run them at a lower level, obviously you get less effectiveness. However, the base cooldown is just lower now, so even if you don't run the cooldown card at all, you still benefit from the cooldown reduction of having an 8-second cooldown on your abilities now. So that is pretty good, and that's the indirect buff to Bounce House, of course, is that the cooldowns are lower. So yay, Bounce House is going to be even more effective now. Dun dun dun. So yeah, this is these are all pretty powerful buffs for Buck, and he should be much more scary now when playing his non-Bounce House playstyles. We'll see how players feel about that. Cassie is getting some really tiny boosts this update to just make her a tiny bit more effective. Starting with Big Game, which is her least popular talent, this now deals 9% of a target's maximum health instead of 8% of a target's maximum health as damage. So ever so slightly more effective. And yeah, Fernando is taking 1,094 damage now from this talent, so that's a crisp, clean 4-shot. That's pretty nice. And they have also buffed a few cards, as well as decreased the cooldown of dodge roll and base kit from 7 seconds to 6 seconds, so you can generally just roll a little bit faster now as well. So let's take a look at these card changes. Drain Life has been ever so slightly buffed, as well as Onslaught. These are 2 healing cards, Drain Life here, Onslaught over here. And they have also buffed Intense Training, which is the movement speed card after dodge roll. They have buffed the duration from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. However, they have nerfed Incitement to make up for the fact that the dodge roll has been buffed in base kit. So this, at level 5, will basically still give you the same cooldown on the dodge roll at the end of the day, right? If I switch into my Exaction build here with the nerfed Incitement, then dodge roll and shoot. Yeah, the cooldown is still the same. But again, obviously at those lower levels it won't quite be the same, but then at base kit, if you don't run Incitement at all, your dodge roll is still faster now. So that's kind of the big change here, and obviously if you're playing Exaction and you miss, then you still get a benefit from that 6-second cooldown, so that is pretty nice. Dredge is a wacky, silly guy this update. He is getting a whole slew of their changes, alright. So let's take a look. First of all, 2 of his talents have been changed. Scuttle has been nerfed from 850 damage on the Abyssal Reload down to 700 damage, and this is to make up for the fact that Deft Hands has been buffed. Hurl has also been drastically changed, so now hits with Harpoon will refund its cooldown and generate 50% more ultimate charge, but it will no longer slow enemies on hit. So it's very similar to the old Hurl, except if you miss, you don't get cooldown reduction. So you have to be very deliberate with your Harpoons. All of a sudden, instead of being a spam talent, Hurl is now a skill shot talent, which I think is pretty cool, much more healthy for the character, and still definitely his best choice when fighting flying characters. You just have to be really good. And yeah, this also gives more ultimate charge, which I guess is a neat little thing, although Dredge's ult isn't super good, especially if you're not able to slow the enemies inside of it. Personally, I would have just made the slow less effective without removing it completely, but they have decided to completely remove the slow still on Hurl. So yeah, that is a big change from the PTS, actually, because it didn't slow. Or it did slow, excuse me, on the PTS, so that was very scary. There are some more changes, though. First of all, his base movement speed is just a little bit faster now, and the broadside also has decreased post-fire, meaning that once you throw the broadside out, you can get back to shooting and doing your normal Dredge stuff just a little bit faster. And one more big change is they have increased the damage on Abyssal Reload up to 1,000. This is the base Abyssal Reload, the non-Scuttle version. It used to be 1,000 back in the day, Then they nerfed it to actually nerf Scuttle. Like, instead of nerfing Scuttle's damage only like they're doing this patch, they just nerfed the Abyssal Reload across the board, which was an interesting change. And so yeah, now if you're skillful, really skillful at hitting that projectile, then you can get 1,000 damage bursts on Dredge now. And if we buy some Deft Hands, you can see how that might look. Reload, boom. Reload, boom. Reload, boom. And it looks pretty overpowered in the shooting range, but that's going to be a heck of a lot harder to pull off in a match, especially against fast targets. So, pretty nifty buff. Maybe we'll see some non-Scuttle reload spammers. Ooh, that might be interesting. They have also changed a bunch of his cards. So, let's take a look at those. Mortal Skewer has increased scaling. This is the healing card on Harpoon. Abyss Cannon has double scaling. This is the card that generates ammo for each enemy hit by broadside. Gun Deck no longer increases maximum ammo, but it does increase the reload speed up to a firm 20% at level 5 right now. Plank Walker as well. This is the card that heals you after shortcut, has been buffed. Haul on the Bowline, which is over here, which increases reload speed after exiting shortcut, has been buffed from 7 to 8%, and also the duration from 3 to 4 seconds. And then Heave Away has been tripled in its effect. This is the card that reduces the cooldown of Harpoon for each enemy hit by broadside. So pretty massive buff here. Still probably not the best card at the end of the day, though, but hey, at least it got buffed. So yeah, a lot of changes here for Dredge. He's a wacky champion, and yeah, I guess we'll see what Dredge mains do with him this patch. Drogoz has gotten some very minor but very fantastic changes. First of all, this card, Follow the Scent. This was an utterly terrible card that was the biggest noob trap in the game, I think, when it comes to cards in particular. This card increased the size of Fire Spit by an utterly massive percentage, but what that means is it increased the size of the projectile, not the explosion. So people would run this card thinking it would help their combustible gameplay. No, it absolutely would not. Instead, it just resulted in the Fire Spit being more likely to get stuck on walls, shields, and other random crap before you're able to detonate it. This card has been reworked to generate ammo after using Fire Spit. So, I can shoot out a bunch of shots, and then boom, and have ammo left to actually be able to shoot that Fire Spit, and if I run the card at a high level, even have some more ammo back to shoot the enemies some more. So, this kind of, I think, will fill the same niche as Makoa's ammo generation card on Hook, where it just helps to make sure you always have at least one ammo ready to go for your Fire Spit, and generally help with ammo uptime across the board. And then, one other small change, they have buffed the cooldown of the Salvo from 20 seconds down to 18 seconds, which is a pretty nice change, I think, just makes it a little bit more fluid. It's a super long cooldown for an ability that, honestly, sometimes I forget about, so that is pretty nice. Furia has gotten a very big buff to Cherish, so this talent is now able to heal herself. Finally, yay! And it also applies card effects in an AoE. So if you look at my health bar, you see how it barely goes up because I'm running the shield card at level 1? Yeah, I'm giving that shield to myself because I'm in range of the Cherish here on Fernando. But you'll notice one more thing. Fernando is also affected by the secondary heal. He's getting double the healing numbers right now. And this is a very spicy change that I think was a bug, but they've left it in. So, Fernando here is able to get healed quite substantially. It's a 50% boost to the single target healing output of Cherish, meaning she now basically has, I think it's a 1500 burst on that thing, which is pretty spooky. We might be back up to old Cherish levels of gameplay here. We'll see how busted this is, if it even is busted in the current meta and the current state of the game. This will also scale with Rejuvenate, which, bear in mind, was not reworked this update as planned. So, yeah, if we just buy some Rejuvenate here, womp womp, that is half of his health restored in a single Cherish, which is pretty cool, but, yeah, will it still be better than Solar Blessing now, finally? I don't know, we'll have to see for ourselves. As mentioned earlier, Grohk applies a shock effect with his Shock Pulse now, but the other cool thing is that Spirit's Domain now ramps up its healing the longer it is affecting a target. So we started at around 80, and we go up to 104, just like that. So, yeah, just a nice boost to Spirit's Domain's healing output. Still not the correct answer to ultimately save the talent, but it feels like a very natural thing for this talent to be doing. It just feels good, so it's still a great change that they put in here for Grohk nonetheless. Imani has gotten a very major buff this update. Pyromania now has no damage penalty, meaning that you get 1,000 damage fireballs with an AoE, and that's it. That's it. No downside to this talent whatsoever. You get your burst, you get your AoE too. It's just is spooky now how effective this talent is. By far her best talent this update, and a very massive buff to the character overall, so you're going to see a lot more Imani players this update. And you're going to have to keep an eye out for them because they are devious, the Imani mains. They are very skilled at this champion who has been in the gutter for a long time, but she's kept getting buffed pretty much every patch or every other patch for a very long time now. She's a pretty strong character now, and if you're not using her already, then maybe give her a try because she is really freaking strong. On top of that, they also gave her some small card buffs, so Elemental Barrier and Affinity both have 3-second internal cooldowns down from 5 to match Discipline and Draconic Will, and Arcane Ice also has increased scaling from 15 up to 25. So for Kasumi, they have reverted the damage fall-off change from the previous update, so now she's able to do full damage even at max range, and they have also increased her bonus damage done to deployables and deployed shields from 250 to 400%. Since she's not allowed to buy Wrecker, even though she is allowed to buy Bulldozer, though I still don't know what's up with that, they figured, well, hey, Wrecker's getting buffed, so we might as well buff Kasumi's shield damage to compensate, which is definitely a very fair thing to do. Con buffs? Uh-oh. Yeah. So Khan is getting a buff to his non-Storm of Bullets playstyles because the base heavy repeater shoots faster now and is generally better to handle. It just feels pretty good now. So yeah, pretty good change already. But they have also really buffed Vortex Grip, because Vortex Grip will now weaken enemies to weapon attacks by 15% for 1.4 seconds, which is basically the duration of the stun if they don't buy Resilience, but if they do buy Resilience, it still just lasts for 1.4 seconds. So grab Viktor, and check out the damage. 242 damage to him, and yeah, that is a pretty powerful buff that will apply to everyone who shoots him on the team. So if I grab him and then Drogoz shoots at him, Drogoz is going to be doing increased damage to Viktor. So that is a pretty cool buff to Vortex Grip. And then on top of that, they have also buffed his ultimate ever so slightly by making it have less of a delay on casting. Generally just feels better to hit now. I would have also made it so that the ultimate has less of an ultimate charge rate, but they have not gone for that, so this is just a raw buff to Consult, which feels a little bit weird to say, but yeah, that's what they've done. And also, before any of you clever people get worried that Storm of Bullets is stronger because the base fire rate has been buffed, that is not the case. They have nerfed Storm of Bullets to compensate, so Storm of Bullets feels the exact same. There's going to be no noticeable difference this update. So yeah, it's basically the same scaling. And one final change, they have buffed the Shield Wall card to 250 health scaling. Just thought I'd point that out because I guess it's important. Maeve is perfect this patch. Just perfect. So they have finally removed Street Justice once and for all. No execute on pounds, no weird ultimate execute hybrid, nah, it's just Artful Dodger time. So we've got a very cultured setup of talents now. We've got Cat Burglar for when you need the extra damage, we've got Artful Dodger, the incredibly cultured talent, and we've got Rogue's Gambit, the also incredibly cultured talent. And Artful Dodger has an added effect now, because this talent was previously in Truly Talented, but they've changed it up a little bit. So instead of giving increased healing on 9 lives, you now have an additional jump. So the old triple jump talent from the open beta days, they have attached that to Artful Dodger, which still has its immunity to crowd control effects for a quarter of a second on activating 9 lives, as well as the ability to interrupt crowd control you're already affected by with the 9 lives. So this is just a really insanely cool talent now. 1, 2, 3 jumps. And yeah, this allows you to do a lot of parkour on maps that you weren't previously able to do. For example, I can prowl and then jump. 1, 2, and 3, and I'm actually able to make it all the way over here with 1 prowl, which you would not have been able to cross that gap previously with just 2 jumps. I can tell you that for a fact. So that is a really cool change. It makes navigating on a map like Serpent Beach really fun in a way that's different to how you would normally go about interacting with that map with Rogue's Gambit. So That is a really cool change. And yeah, the crowd control immunity on the 9 lives. If you're really fast, you have good reflexes, you can dodge some crowd control with that, but it also is a really long cooldown too. So definitely fair and balanced, and just such a cool talent. I'm so glad it's here, man. And yeah, Street Justice is gone. Hooray! Makoa has gotten a few changes. So first of all, his talent changes. Half Shell now increases the maximum health of the Shell Shield by 500, and the base Shell Shield has also gotten a 500 health increase. So now if you run Half Shell, by default you have a 5,000 health shield. They have also changed Leviathan, so now Leviathan is the only talent which has Big Makoa in the ultimate. So if I grab Half Shell, and then I go over here, get my ultimate, and then use it in third person mode, you see, I don't change size with Half Shell. However, if I switch over into Leviathan, will it dynamically scale me? No, it won't. But if I go ahead and get a new ultimate and then use it with Leviathan, you see now I am Big Makoa. So that is pretty cool. And they have also done away with the headshot protection. So previously, if you got headshot during your ultimate with Makoa, you actually ended up taking less damage than a body shot. That's not the case anymore. Headshots just go back to dealing full damage this update on the ultimate. So a bit of a nerf in that regard, but I think it'll still be fine. And also, one more change to Leviathan. Leviathan now resets every single cooldown he has now. So previously it only reset the shell spin and the hook, but now it also resets the shell shield. So I can grab this talent, and then whoop, hook, shell spin, and then shield. Oh, it's scary. But then I can ult, and boom, got my shield back, so I can hook again, do that, shell spin, and then cancel the ult and shield again. Pretty nice. And yeah, one last change to compensate for the shield generally getting tankier this update. Barrier Reef has also been nerfed, so now you need 1,000 health to get that 1 second of cooldown reduction instead of 900. So we've got some really good changes here for flank Moji enjoyers in particular, but I guess also some generally nice buffs for healer Moji as well. So, Moji, first of all, no longer slows herself when she's using her Sparkle, which is pretty cool. And also, Jubilation has been buffed to deal 1,000 damage per shot now, bringing it back up to the damage that flank Moji had, so this is pretty nice. And they have also slightly buffed Magic Shield to give 600 shielding to all allies in range and increase the duration of the shields from 4 to 5 seconds. And then, finally, they have buffed some cards, and one very big card buff in particular that also affects damage Moji is Morning Breath, which makes Sparkle now cost up to 100% less ammo when hitting an enemy. I don't think you need to run it that high. I think level 3 is a pretty good value to have it at, because, I mean, if you somehow run out of ammo while fighting an enemy, like, what are you doing here? That is so much ammo with that card, so this is... yeah, a pretty good change for flank Moji players. She's going to feel a lot more like flank Moji did before the rework. And then I guess one final change, Shimmering also has 1 second of extra duration, which is, of course, the card that gives you crowd control resistance on Magic Shield. So, very small final change there to round things off. Oh yeah, Pip has also gotten some utterly incredible changes. First of all, the base healing potion has gone up from 1,000 to 1,200 health, so just already a pretty nice healing buff there. But the real meat and potatoes of this update is that Weightless now has an increased duration from 2.5 to 3 seconds, and you can double jump in Weightless, just like that. So this is a massive mobility buff to Pip this update, which of course is most going to affect his damage playstyle because you can use that mobility to juke your enemies, chase people, run away, etc. But it obviously will also help with healer Pip for trying to get to those high grounds a little bit easier or run away from enemies a little bit easier. So this is a really major and fantastic change for Pip. Finally, they've also done a slight change to Mega Potion, so it now just provides a flat 1,000 bonus heal instead of providing double the healing, because I guess they felt that a 2,400 burst on Mega Potion would be too strong in this update. So, yeah, that is the final change here for Pip, but yeah, this double jump, oh, it's so freaking good, especially, by the way, if you pair it with the Sprint card. Just like to point that out. Sprint Escape Artist, that is a good combo. Sha Lin has gotten a lot of changes this update to make him feel much more fluid to play. So first of all, Sand Trap has been buffed. It no longer has the cooldown penalty attached. However, they have also reduced the blast radius, so slightly smaller AoE now. But the real big talent change here is that Desert Silence has been reworked into Desert Shadow, which causes eliminations to enter you into stealth for 2 seconds, and shots from stealth will deal 200 increased damage. So I can pick this talent up, and then I can go and withdraw, then do 1200 damage to Ying, just like that, and that's actually a 2-tap there, and then I go into stealth, and then I can do 1200 damage to Viktor, and you get the point. So that is pretty cool. And they have also done a pretty massive change to how Sha Lin works in terms of his speed. So previously, he would slow himself when firing his longbow, right? Draw the longbow and then just walk around like this, you moved 10% slower. That is gone. No more movement speed penalty on this champion, thank goodness. But on top of that, they have also buffed him during stealth. So passively during stealth, he moves 20% faster. And that is really powerful too, because you can scale that with the movement speed card, Wanderlust. You can get 15% increase in movement speed just passively, permanently. So, scale those two together, you're already moving really fast. But then, you can buy Nimble. Dun dun dun! And so now, if I withdraw, I'm sprinting across the hall. But then, remember his ultimate. The ultimate provides him 30% increased movement speed. On top of the passive, on top of Wanderlust, on top of Nimble.
Your sight fails you.
Whee! Oh, look at how fast that guy is. That is insane. And with this new talent, every shot fired from the ultimate will deal that bonus 1200 damage. So this talent is really an ultimate powerhouse now. Definitely his strongest talent during the ultimate in particular. So those are all some pretty big Sha Lin buffs. And then finally they have also changed one of his cards. So the card that previously reduced the movement speed penalty while firing the bow has been changed to a jump height increase while in stealth. So I can pop that up to level 5, withdraw, and then jump much higher. And this is quite fun to pair with the ult. Do this, and then just run around and do a lot of damage while being extremely evasive. And yeah, it's just an interesting and fun card. So there you go, new options for Sha Lin here. Skye has gotten 2 card reworks, so Twilight Armor will now increase your maximum health, and Tactical Reload will increase your maximum ammo. That's all, moving on. Tiberius now has a new talent called Borrowed Luck, which is replacing Predatory Instincts. This talent will cause combat trance to reset your other abilities' cooldowns when activated, which is, yeah, a pretty, I guess, vanilla talent for Tiberius as far as his talents are concerned. So, yeah, I can jump in and then throw the sword. Make sure to recall the sword, otherwise I don't get the cooldown reset. But then I can combat trance, and then I can do it all over again. Throw the sword, boom, recall the sword, and then jump, and yeah, you get the drill. So, pretty default bland talent for Tiberius here. It's still not super interesting in my opinion, not super compelling. I already made a video explaining exactly why, so go watch that if you're interested in more details. Alright, let's talk about Torvald, because he might be dead this patch. So Torvald has not received any shield buffs. He is notably, I think, the only shield tank in the game which has not received a shield buff, in spite of the fact that Wrecker has been massively increased in its effectiveness. So that's a little concerning. However, they have reverted one change from last update where they increased the proportion of his overall total hit points that was actually a shield. So last patch, he had 2,800 base hit points and 2,700 shield hit points. They have changed that, so now he has 3,000 base hit points and 2,500 shield hit points. So what that means is he'll be a little bit less affected by Wrecker because more of his hit points are now just raw health. They have also classified Nullify as shock damage, so you can shock the enemies and let Kinessa do more damage to them, I guess. And they have buffed the protection ever so slightly. They have increased the duration from 4 seconds to 5 seconds and decreased the cooldown from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. So you have more uptime on them, but bear in mind that already they only had 500 health to begin with, so one Cassie shot without Wrecker completely destroys it. And if they have Wrecker, they will breathe on that shield, and the 1 second of extra duration means absolutely nothing. So the increased uptime is cool. I guess that's a way for them to buff his shielding without buffing the raw hit points that you give. But the fact that the shield is so tiny and Wrecker is so big has me concerned for this character. And one final major important change that they have done is they have buffed the Hyper Beam to have CC immunity from frame 1. So if I go into third person here, you see the yellow CC immunity happens on frame 1 during the wind-up animation. Previously, it didn't happen during the wind-up animation. It only happened once the beam was active, once it started doing damage, and that made it so that you basically couldn't use the ultimate to reactively counter crowd control in the same way that basically every other tank in the game that has CC immunity could. So that is a really good change for Torvald. Getting down to the last few champions here, we have some pretty nice changes for Viktor, so two pretty cool talent changes. First of all, Shrapnel does 150 increased damage now, bringing the total of Frag Grenade up to 900 damage, so Shrapnel's going to be a very nice option this update. And Cardio has also been buffed to give you 150% increased jump height while using Hustle, which is a very silly change. However, we have seen it have some real applications in a match. For example, on Bazaar, this actually allows you to jump over the walls completely, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, this is a very interesting change for Cardio, and we'll see just how useful this can actually be. Vivian has gotten some minor changes, so I suspect everyone has been simplified. It now simply reduces Deflector Shield's cooldown by half if it is destroyed by an enemy. So it no longer has an internal cooldown, and it also no longer increases the health of the shield. However, they have buffed the base health of the shield in base kit, and I figured that's important to mention because she is not a tank. I did kind of just cast a wide net and say basically every tank got their shield buffed, but Vivian also got her shield buffed. So even Vivian's getting shield love when Torvald isn't. Poor Torvald. So yeah, there's that, and then also they have made the Sentinels apply shock. Pretty neat. And, well, that's it. There's your Vivian changes. Willo has received a new card in the form of Fauna, which increases the knockback you receive from Wand of Overgrowth by 200%. Previously, this card gave her something out of combat. I don't know, it was a really bad card. And this card allows you to do some very interesting things. For instance, you can now accelerate yourself really fast against the ground like that. Obviously you take damage for it, but if you're on a flat surface or a surface that's generally going downwards, you can accelerate yourself like this and move really, really, really fast. In some cases, even faster than a mount. So, if you get really good at controlling it, that is one really good movement option for you now if you're willing to take that self-damage. Also, it allows you to generally boost yourself against walls a little bit. Now, that method is really slow, but consider if you're just up in the air like this, you can give yourself a quick burst against a wall and keep yourself floating pretty much indefinitely, and then get your next flutter back, and then just kind of stay up along the wall, throw some stuff out, and then boost yourself, boom, like that. Shoot some more shots, boost yourself, boom, and then I got another flutter. So this is a really cool movement tech card that I'm sure a lot of Willo players will enjoy. It's not going to be for everyone, and it's certainly not a mandatory card, but it is a really cool new movement option for those who want to try it. Yagorath has gotten a lot of changes in this update as well, one of which I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about, although maybe not Yagorath players exactly. So, first of all, Unnatural Persistence has been reworked. This is just a massive W, because Unnatural Persistence previously was an utterly awful talent. And this new talent causes her to receive increased healing while in hardening. 50% increased healing, as a matter of fact, allowing her to counter Cauterize and get extra healing in a pretty massive way. And this is a very useful talent for Yagorath in general because she is not able to cleanse Cauterize the same way that other tanks can. She has no deployed barrier, which she can use to take shots in her stead and block those incoming Cauterize applications. So this will really give her a bunch of fortitude now. I think this will be really helpful if you're a solo tank in particular. So it should be, hopefully, a pretty darn good talent now. We shall see. But they have also done a whole bunch of other changes to Yagorath. So they have restored her to an ammo system, I guess. Although she only has one ammo on the piercing quills, so I'm generally confused by this change. It uses ammo instead of cooldown, reloads every 0.5 seconds. It still has a cooldown? I don't really understand what's up with this, to be totally frank. I guess it means Chronos probably no longer affects it. That's probably what the change means. Really weird. Devour, though. This is the big change that a lot of people that are non-Yagorath mains are really going to love this update. You can no longer wall abuse with Yagorath ult. It's gone. You can no longer ult people from behind walls and basically get a free kill while not putting yourself in any danger at all. So now Yagorath players are going to have to be a lot smarter with how they use their ultimate, using it when there aren't very many enemies nearby, or using it on someone who's distracted, or obviously using it with your team, having good synergy, using shields to protect you. So yeah, that you're going to have to use Yagorath ult the way it's intended now instead of abusing it with walls. They have also made it so it no longer refunds 30% energy if the target takes 1000 damage and is dropped due to collision. It applies a hefty stun, deals, in the case of squishy champions, almost half of a character's health, and most of the time gets them killed if it does drop them like that, so there was no reason for it to refund. And then finally they have removed the critical spots on her tail when ulting, so at least in that regard the ult is being buffed against hit scans. Finally, they have buffed Sight Begets Strength. Even Yagorath gets shield buffs this update, but not Torvald. This now does 1000 shielding instead of 900 shielding over the duration, and has a 5-second increased duration instead of 4 seconds on the shield. So, yeah, nice small buff to round things off for Yagorath. And the final balance change of the update. A seemingly small one, but actually maybe surprisingly impactful one, is the change to Ephemeral here for Ying. This is a card that now reduces the cooldown of Dimensional Link by up to 2.5% after hitting an enemy with your weapon. So, teleport on in here, wait for my Dimensional Link to expire, and then take a look at the cooldown reduction. So, boom, 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 and I have my Dimensional Link back. So, you're able to get greatly increased uptime on this, especially if you stack it with the other cooldown card as well. However, do note that you are not able to decrease the cooldown while the Dimensional Link is actually active. So if I go ahead and teleport here and then just shoot this Ying a bunch, shoot the Fernando a bunch, you'll notice that as soon as the Dimensional Link goes down, still an 11-second cooldown. So you only get the cooldown reduction after the Dimensional Link is over. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, so let me know what you think about the brand new Season 8 update in the comments section down below. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more videos like this from me. And also, if you want to buy the new event pass, please consider checking out the Nexus over at nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. Here you can buy crystals, the season pass, all kinds of DLC for Paladins, and you can support the channel directly in the process, so I'd really appreciate it if you would check it out. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.